just spins, spins, spins. All right, I'm going to shut off the chat because of the spam of the chat. And now, where we left off yesterday, we had Shah Jahan. He built the beautiful Taj Mahal, and then he got really, really sick. And of course, his sons wanted him to die so that they could become the next emperor. And so they fought each other so that Aurangzeb could take the lead. When Shah Jahan winds up recovering, he says, "Daddy, that was not nice," throws him in the dungeon for the rest of his life. And now Aurangzeb goes and rules. And if Joel could chillax just a bit, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, because you're like distracting me and probably others. Anyways, Aurangzeb was not a great ruler. He was particularly good with military conquest, so he does have the Mughal Empire reach its greatest extent. He conquers almost the rest of India that was left unconquered. It's actually pretty impressive, and we'll see that. But he is super harsh. He winds up going and being incredibly cruel to his people. If they were not Sunni Muslims, he persecuted them. And I was specific by saying Sunni Muslims because there were Shia Muslims living in India at this time. He persecuted them. There were Sufi Muslims living in India at this time. He persecuted them. So it wasn't even just like an Islam versus Hinduism thing. He persecuted anyone who did not believe exactly what he believed. He wound up persecuting the Hindus terribly, bringing back all those taxes Akbar got rid of. Like the ones you're just like, oh, you're Hindu? Oh, you pay this extra tax. He brought those back to make extra money. There were people protesting how cruel and terrible he was. And he sent the elephants to squish them. So yeah, his own people. So he was not great. And people rebelled against him. And basically when he dies, instead of going and having an orderly, well, this is my successor, there was civil war in India. And we know that civil war is never good for a country. And so the Mughals, they fight themselves all for power. And while they're fighting themselves, there are going to be invasions from the north. So we're going to see that others are going to look at the weakness of the Mughals and try to capitalize on it. Now, the Mughals will last for another 150 years, which it gets so into modern history that we're not going to worry about it. But continually for that time after Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire will be losing territory. They will be going and having political instability and just wind up becoming a shell of themselves until the British come and take full control over India in 1858. So it's kind of like a bummer of an ending for the Mughals because they rose to power so quickly. They wound up having some real superstars like Akbar ruling them. I mean, they changed the face of India. Like, you can't deny the impact that the Mughals did, which we'll get to the influence in a moment. But then they just had this long, protracted, drawn-out demise. Our next slide is just going to be a quick overview of some of the achievements. You're not going to have to write anything for the next slide, but it is a good visual just to see. And I'll give you a wee bit longer since I see some of you are still writing. I learned a great trick with these backgrounds while some of you are finishing up. If you go and hide your face, you disappear. Isn't that wild? Ooh, I've got this crazy disembodied hand. That's it. No. Yeah. So, kind of cool how that works. Anyways, enough being a goofball. So here we see the pink is the things that Aurangzeb added. So he did add a lot of territory. You know, he's a great conqueror. But I don't think being a good conqueror necessarily equates to being a great ruler. You know, and so these achievements of the Mughals, it is definitely skewed to being positive because you can spin things whenever way you want. For example, it said support of the growth of Sunni Islam. Well, that was at the expense of everyone else because he was basically like, believe what I believe or else. Not nice. Shah Jahan, he went and promoted the arts and literature, which was great. He built amazing buildings. But, you know, the downside is he had super high taxes for people to be able to do those things. Jahangir, once again, really spinning the negative into a positive, encouraged Persian culture in India because he was trying to destroy the Indian culture there, which is kind of lame-o. Thankfully, Akbar is pretty blameless with this. Expanded the size of the empire, cool. Built a strong central government. Yes, he did that, was good, and was extremely religiously tolerant. We could have added in here, improved the tax system, did so much. And Babur, they're like, well, he founded it because he conquered a lot, but then kicked the bucket right away. So in here, really, we can see Akbar is definitely by far the best of the rulers of them. And for worst, I don't know, probably a tie between Jahangir and Aurangzeb. I don't like how Aurangzeb was mean to his daddy, so I'm probably going to pick him as the worst of the worst. Final slide. So Mughals, why are they important? Why do we talk about them today? They had a strong government that they, ruled India for a few years. We really do get a cool culture. It's a real bummer when we have the persecution of others that we saw with Aurangzeb and Jahangir. But what the Mughals created was pretty cool. And if you go to India today, you'll see the Persian elements, the Indian elements all married together, and just really cool things. But have lots more trade when the Mughals come. I think Roger was talking about how all the water features of the Taj Mahal, and that was a big thing for the Mughals, these things they called water gardens. And just going this idea of taking areas and having beautiful water pieces to just make it more nice to see. I'll get to you in one moment, sir. The architecture, we see huge influence there, and it's honestly probably my favorite architecture, the Mughal architecture of all the places we study. And also we're going to get Urdu, which is going to be a culture and a language. Urdu is mostly spoken in Pakistan, but it's in parts of India as well. And Pakistan historically is part of India. It's only until modern times that Pakistan is broken away from India. And Urdu is kind of cool because it's a mixture of Persian, Arabic, and Turkish, and there should also be Indian culture in there as well. I taught a young lady that spoke Urdu. She was a very sweet girl. Joe, what was your question or comment, sir?
I didn't have one.
Well, then why